Tell me your thoughts on this. I saw you tweeting that there ought to be an investigation of some sort into connections between the Chinese Communist Party or the Chinese regime and the Liberal cabinet. First of all, what makes you call for that? And second of all, what kind of investigation do you foresee or would call for?
Well, the reason I call for that is if you look at really what's happening around the world, Canada's basically become the government or the country that's really most pro-China, and it's quite disturbing. And you see countries that have a lot more to lose, like Australia and New Zealand, for example, they're taking a very strong stand against China, and they've got a lot to lose economically. Now, the States obviously is taking a strong stand, but the problem is Canada's it's been incredibly weak. Every chance they get to criticize China, they pass up, like every single time. They were afraid to even say Taiwan until they got so much pressure. They had to actually say the word Taiwan and thank them for their donation of PPE to Canada. And so the question is, why is Canada acting so differently? We saw the Angus Reid poll today. You have just 14% of Canadians saying they have a positive view of China, the lowest it's ever been in history. Almost everyone in this country wants Huawei to be blocked from our 5G network. Government still hasn't made a decision on that. So at some point you say, what's going on here? And again, it's not about conspiracy theories. I just think Canadians need to know. And both options, to be honest, are pretty bad. So either we investigate and we find that there are a bunch of people who are compromised, likely financially by China within the Liberal government, or we find out this is just some sort of ideological thing and they really do feel some sort of ideological affinity with China. And both of those options are pretty disturbing for Canadians.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's more than a decade ago since the head of CSIS said there were 1,000 plus active agents in Canada spying for China. Most of that spying would be industrial espionage, but of course, Canada is privy to the highest security briefings as one of the Five Eyes, along with United States, UK, Australia, New Zealand. So Canada could be a security weak link. We're definitely a technology weak link. I wonder if it's ideology, because Trudeau has always loved the third world. He's loved the romance of it. His brother, Alexandra, who is his sometimes policy advisor, actually wrote a book published by the government of China, a pro-China propaganda piece. So I think it's quite possible, like his dad, he truly believes in the Communist Party. But I also know that he's been reckless in his personal life. And I got to think that old Cold War tactic of the honey trap, the honey pot, where they have they send in someone to trap someone in a sexual indiscretion, or they have a financial indiscretion. That's got Trudeau written all over it too. We need to find out, I think, if it's just ideology or if, it's possible. Again, neither you nor I have no evidence to this effect, but he might actually be under some sort of duress.
Yeah, there's no way to know, and that's why I think it needs to be investigated. Personally, I think for most political leaders, people's personal lives should be off limits. In a case like this, I think it's most likely financial, but, I think that's why we need to investigate. And I think, the vast majority of people, I would think, in government at least feel that they're loyal to Canada. So you'd think that if there's a concern of China having influence over somebody, having information on somebody, threatening people, you think they would be the first ones to want to get to the bottom of it, to clear up any concerns. So I think the first thing is Canadians really need to start demanding of our MPs that they push for an investigation. And then we'll see who's actually willing to go through an investigation. If there's a bunch of people who seem to have ties to China or are very pro-China, and all of a sudden they get really afraid about investigating connections to China, well, that may be a clue there's something going on there.
That's an excerpt from my daily show, The Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.